How to apply lean thinking to your life. How the lean startup principle and minimalism help you get a better life. Of course, all these principles I just mentioned heavily draw from each other, and if you really want to get down to definitions, my generalizations may not totally hold true, but it doesn't really matter, because what matters is what you get out of it. These are the principles: a lean startup, design thinking, Pareto principle, prototyping, minimalism. So let's end the list here. Things shouldn't get too complicated. So first of all, let's talk about the lean startup. This book, written by Eric Ries, basically evolved into the Bible of every modern startup. It includes several other principles, but basically it is this: you want to prototype your product as early as possible and then get it out to the customers, because everything else is just a waste of time and resources. Whereby time, of course, is the most important one. What can we draw from this? Well, keep it lean. Regarding your life, this could mean you want to keep all things potentially hindering you in the future down to the least amount possible. Buy a house and pay off a loan for the next 40 years, and then you decide to marry someone somewhere completely else and everything gets complicated. Prototyping is the concept to experiment and collect data and then build the next prototype. I personally refer to this concept mainly as the iteration principle, meaning the goal never is to make something and to end it, but to just get it as far as it is working, and you don't have to deal with it again. I mean, you could, but you don't have to. That frees your mind up and, most importantly, gets things done. Because very often Parkinson's law otherwise kicks in, meaning that your invested time elongates till the deadline. If you don't have one of these, then you are stuck till infinity. Design thinking. Well, ever thought about the success of Apple? You can view the world through the eyes of a designer who wants to optimize everything, make everything as beautiful and also as easy as possible. Example: why is the Mac so easy to use? Well, because then it is easy to use, and you don't have to think about stuff like RAM, updating Windows every 10 minutes. If you are a creative professional and you want to get things done, you use a Mac. Because, well, not saying that creative people don't know how to handle a full-blown PC, but that's not what they do, doing computer stuff. But what they do and also earn their money is doing creative things. Hence, they should, for one, focus on improving that skill, and for two, maximize the time using exactly the thing they do the best, which kind of is the basic principle of a free economic market, and the separation and resulting in the specialization of work, which kind of leads humans and the world into the best world that ever existed. If you measure it in the pain the living people have to endure, more people nowadays are dying from overweight than from starvation. Just to give you an example. Pareto principle. Pareto discovered that most things in this world, and the universe in general, are distributed very unevenly. He stated that in the last 20%, 80% of, well, the thing you analyze is, for example, 20% of customers get you 80% of revenue, whereas the remaining 80% only amount for 20% of revenue. If you cut out the remaining 80%, efficiency went through the roof. Just imagine if you applied this to your own life and especially to your belongings, you would get minimalism. This is kind of a YouTube phenomenon that is pretty new. The thing is, you probably own lots of stuff that you don't use, but you have to manage it. Implied here is also the principle of opportunity cost. In terms of finance, space, volume, organizing things, because imagine you sold your stereo, which you don't use, and got something else instead, which you need more. Assuming no transaction costs, to keep things simple, you would end up with a better life. Better life, better wife. Well, kinda got lost here. Ideally, basically, you rank all your items in a matter of utility, meaning, is your phone or your notebook more valuable? To you? Decide. This is the thought Leon Walras had. Then you would get a hierarchy of utility. What you now need to do is this. Make a list of all the things you have but don't need, and all the things you need but don't have. Of course, this statement shortens the thought down to extremes, and the world doesn't consist out of them, but rather out of every value in between. But coming back to our printer. Which printer? Let's say time is the unit you measure everything in, which is kind of the smartest frame to think about this. If you for one desperately need a chair to sit on and you don't have one, but you have a stereo which you have but don't need, then you should exchange them. Sell your stereo and get your chair. These are extremes again, but if you need 200 extra bucks to get a new phone, which you assumed no will free up time, because currently you are wasting 20 hours in a year installing and deleting apps, because your internal storage is always maxed out, then you probably also should sell your stereo and get the phone, save time, therefore save money and save stress and get a better life, which could also lead you to a better W. And then a few dots. Well, this article here is and was written with all these principles in mind in 40 minutes. Does this matter? No, not to you, not at all, but to me, because otherwise I wouldn't have written it. I tried to apply as many smart principles as I can think of when writing this, and also writing about them. The thing is this: you can always improve later on, which of course isn't entirely true, but it gets us somewhere. It gets us to creating stuff like this article. Think a stream.